Your brain is broken, not damaged, broken, and I can prove it to you right now. I want you to try something. Put your phone down. If you are listening to this on your phone, flip it over so it is face down on the table and slide it just out of your reach. Now, do not touch it for 60 seconds. Just listen to my voice and observe what happens in your body. Do you feel that subtle rise in anxiety? That phantom itch in your fingers? Do you feel that sudden, almost panic-inducing urge to check just to make sure you didn't miss anything? If you feel that, that is not a lack of willpower. That is neurochemistry. You are experiencing withdrawal. That device in your pocket is not a tool. It is a slot machine designed by the smartest engineers in history specifically to hack your adrenal glands and hijack your attention span. And right now, you are losing that war. We have all been there. You realize you have been scrolling for 2 hours. You feel the guilt, so you decide to quit. You say, that's it. I am going on a dopamine detox. You delete the apps. You put the phone in a drawer. You white-knuckle your way through the day, forcing yourself to be productive, and it works for about 24 hours. But then, the rebound hits. You feel bored. You feel disconnected. The moment your willpower creates a crack, you dive back in. And you don't just scroll. You binge. You lose an entire evening, and you end up feeling weaker than when you started. Why does this happen? It happens because you are treating addiction like a diet. You are trying to starve yourself. But the brain does not respond to starvation. It responds to homeostasis. When you starve the brain of stimulation, it fights back. It creates a hunger so powerful that no amount of discipline can hold it back. This binge-purge cycle is why 90% of people fail to change their digital habits. So, we are going to do something different. We are not going to do a fast. We are going to execute a neurochemical reset. We are not going to fight your biology. We are going to engineer it. We are going to lower the sensitivity of your dopamine receptors so that normal, everyday life feels rewarding again. This is not a collection of tips and tricks. This is a strategic protocol. Over the next 8 chapters, we are going to move through 3 distinct tactical phases. Phase 1 is awareness. This covers chapters 1 and 2. We are going to identify the invisible triggers that fire in your subconscious before you even unlock the screen. Phase 2 is disruption. Spanning chapters 3 through 5, we will deploy biological interventions to break the loop. We will strip the device of its power to hypnotize you, and we will sever the emotional tie to the fear of missing out. Phase 3 is reconstruction. Covering chapters 6 through 8, this is where we ensure you don't relapse. We will build a new environment and a new identity that makes willpower unnecessary. You do not need to go live in a cabin in the woods. You have a job. You have a life. You need a system that works in the real world. The goal is not to stop using technology. The goal is to regain the authority to choose when you use it. Take a deep breath. Stop fighting the old way. Welcome to the protocol. Chapter 1. The slot machine in your pocket. It is 1 a.m. You are lying in the dark. The blue light of the screen is burning your retinas, and your thumb is moving in a rhythmic, hypnotic motion. Swipe. Scan. Swipe. Scan. You are not even enjoying it anymore. You watched a video about a cat, then a political argument, then a recipe for sourdough bread. You don't care about any of this. Your eyes are dry. Your back hurts. You know you have to be up in 6 hours. And yet, you cannot stop. You tell yourself, just one more, just one good one. And therein lies the lie. You think you are scrolling because you enjoy the content. You think you are looking for entertainment, education, or connection. You are wrong. You are not addicted to the content. You are addicted to the uncertainty of the content. To understand why your thumb refuses to stop moving, we have to stop looking at your phone as a communication device and start seeing it for what it really is. It is a slot machine. And to dismantle this machine, we first need to understand the engine that powers it. We need to look at the neuroscience of the maybe. This brings us to the work of Wolfram Schultz. Schultz is a neuroscientist who revolutionized our understanding of biological desire. In the 1990s, he conducted a series of famous experiments using monkeys and apple juice. And what he found shattered the conventional wisdom about dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. They think it is the feeling you get after you eat the chocolate or after you win the game. But the literature suggests something different. Schultz hooked the monkeys up to monitors and taught them a simple pattern. A light would turn on, the monkey would press a lever, and it would receive a squirt of apple juice. At first, the dopamine spiked when the monkey got the juice. It was a reward. But as the monkey learned the pattern, something shifted. The dopamine spike moved backward in time. It started firing when the light turned on, before the juice even arrived. The dopamine was not about the reward, it was about the anticipation of the reward. It was the brain saying, "Pay attention, something good is coming." But then, Schultz did something cruel. And this is the key to your addiction. He changed the odds. Sometimes the light would turn on, the monkey would press the lever, and nothing happened. No juice. Other times the light would turn on, the lever was pressed, and the monkey got a double dose of juice. It was random, it was unpredictable. And do you know what happened to the monkey's brain? The dopamine did not go down. It exploded. When the reward became uncertain, the brain released 3 to 4 times as much dopamine as when the reward was guaranteed. This is a well-documented phenomenon called reward prediction error. Your brain loves patterns, but it is obsessed with breaking them. When the brain knows exactly what is going to happen, it gets bored. It goes on autopilot. But when the outcome is unsure, when there is a 50-50 chance of a reward, your dopamine system goes into overdrive. The uncertainty is the drug. Now, look at your phone. Every single app on your home screen is engineered to exploit reward prediction error. Think about the pull to refresh mechanism. You are on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. You drag your thumb down from the top of the screen. What happens? It doesn't load instantly. There is a pause. A spinning wheel. A loading bar. That pause is not a technical limitation. That pause is a design choice. It is the moment the slot machine reels are spinning. Your brain freezes in that split second of suspension. It asks, what am I going to get? Will it be a funny meme? Will it be a message from a friend? Will it be bad news? You don't know. And because you don't know, your dopamine spikes. If you opened Instagram and saw the exact same 10 photos every time, you would never open the app again. You would be bored instantly. But you don't see the same photos, you see a variable reward schedule. Sometimes the content is trash. That is the loss. Sometimes the content is okay. That is the small win. And sometimes, rarely, you find that one video that makes you laugh out loud. That is the jackpot. You are not weak, you are simply outmatched. You are a biological organism fighting against a supercomputer aimed directly at your primitive nervous system. The engineers in Silicon Valley know about Wolfram Schultz. They have weaponized this biology against you. So, how do we fight back? Most people try to fight this with willpower. They say, I will just stop. That is like trying to stop a tidal wave with a bucket. It does not work because you are fighting your own survival instincts. We need a different approach. We need to move from resisting to observing. We need to catch the machine in the act. This brings us to our first tactical protocol, the 24-hour scroll log. Listen closely, because this instruction is going to sound counterintuitive. I do not want you to stop scrolling today. I am serious. Do not delete the apps. Do not set a timer. Do not try to be a monk. If you try to quit cold turkey right now, without understanding your triggers, you will fail. You will white-knuckle it for 6 hours, get stressed, and then binge for 6 hours. So, for the next 24 hours, I give you full permission to use your phone. But, there is a tax you must pay for every single interaction. Step 1 is the setup. Get a physical notepad and a pen. Do not use the Notes app on your phone. It must be physical paper. Step 2 is the interception. Every single time you unlock your phone, before you touch a single app, you must pause for 5 seconds. You are going to ask yourself one question. What is the specific feeling I am trying to escape right now? Step 3 is the log. You are going to write down the trigger. Usually the trigger falls into one of 4 categories: hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. But it might be simpler. It might be boredom. It might be anxiety. You write it down. 10:05 a.m. Felt bored at work. Checked Twitter. 12:30 p.m. Felt lonely. Checked Instagram. You do this for every single unlock. No exceptions. By writing down the trigger, you are moving the behavior from your basal ganglia, the autopilot part of your brain, to your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain. You are taking the controls back from the autopilot. Before we move on, let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. You are not addicted to the content, you are addicted to the uncertainty. The maybe is what keeps you hooked. Point 2. Your phone is a slot machine. Features like pull to refresh are designed to trigger reward prediction error, spiking your dopamine. Point 3. You cannot fight this with willpower alone. You must start with awareness. Use the scroll log to identify the emotional triggers driving the behavior. This brings us to the law of Chapter 1. If you remember nothing else, remember this: the uncertainty is the drug. You are pulling a lever, hoping for a jackpot that never comes. But now, you know the game is rigged, and now that we have exposed the internal triggers, we need to look at the external trap. Even if you understand the psychology, your phone is still physically engineered to be irresistible. It is painted with colors designed to bypass your logic and go straight to your lizard brain. In the next chapter, we are going to strip the paint off the casino walls. We are going to turn your screen from candy into cardboard. Let's move on. Chapter 2. Turning your screen from candy into cardboard. I want you to take a good hard look at your phone screen. Unlock it and just look at the home screen. What do you see? You see a grid of perfect squares with rounded corners. You see bright, hyper-saturated colors. The deep blue of Facebook, the gradient purple and orange of Instagram, the urgent red of a notification badge. It is beautiful, isn't it? It feels slick, it feels premium, it feels delicious. That is not an accident. That design is not an aesthetic choice. It is a predatory choice. Your phone is designed to look like candy specifically to bypass your logical brain and appeal directly to your primal instincts. To understand why you cannot look away from these colors, we need to leave the world of Silicon Valley and go back to the 1940s, to the laboratory of a Dutch ethologist named Nico Tinbergen. Tinbergen won the Nobel Prize for his work on animal behavior. And his most famous experiment explains exactly why you are addicted to Instagram. Tinbergen was studying a bird called the oystercatcher. Now, the oystercatcher lays eggs that are small, pale, and speckled with gray spots. They are designed to blend into the rocks for safety. Tinbergen noticed that the mother bird had a very specific instinct to sit on these eggs. But he wondered, how simple is this instinct? Can I hack it? So, he built a fake egg. He made it out of plaster. But he didn't make it look like the real egg. He painted it bright neon colors. He made the spots larger and darker. And he made the egg massive. It was so big the bird would barely be able to sit on it. He placed the fake, neon egg next to the real, biological egg. He wanted to see which one the mother would choose. If the bird was logical, she would choose her own egg. Her survival depended on it. Her DNA was inside the real egg. But the bird was not logical. The bird ignored her own egg and climbed on top of the giant neon monster. She tried desperately to incubate the fake egg while her real babies died in the cold right next to her. Tinbergen called this supernormal stimuli. Here is the mechanism. Animal brains and human brains are not wired to see truth. They are wired to see triggers. We have evolved to respond to specific cues. In the wild, bright red means ripe fruit, which means sugar, which means survival. Bright movement means prey or predator. These are what psychologists call bottom-up attentional triggers. They strike the eye and travel straight to the amygdala, bypassing the prefrontal cortex completely. You do not choose to look at them. Your brain forces you to look at them before you have even had a conscious thought. Tinbergen discovered that if you take a natural trigger like a red apple or a speckled egg and you exaggerate it, if you make it brighter, bigger, and more intense, the brain goes haywire. The brain prefers the fake version over the real version. Now look at your phone again. That notification badge? That perfectly round, bright red circle with the white number in the middle? That is a supernormal stimulus. It is a fake berry. It is a fake egg. It is redder than any apple you will ever find in nature. It is brighter than any flower. The saturation levels on modern OLED screens are tuned to a level of intensity that does not exist in the natural world. When you unlock your phone, you are the oyster catcher bird. You are ignoring the real world, your work, your family, your health, to sit on the giant neon fake egg, and you are doing it because your hardware is being hacked. You are trying to fight a supercomputer with willpower, but willpower is a top-down process. It is slow. It requires energy. Color is a bottom-up process. It is fast. It is automatic. Every time you look at that screen, your brain gets a microscopic hit of stimulation just from the colors alone. It is what we call visual sugar. So if we want to break the addiction, we do not need to try harder. We do not need more discipline. We need to kill the stimulus. We need to make the egg look like a rock again. This brings us to the protocol for this chapter. This is the single highest leverage tactical change you can make to your device. We call this the Grayscale Protocol. Most people do not know this, but buried deep inside your phone's accessibility settings is a switch that turns off the color. It strips away the red, the blue, the neon gradients, and renders your entire digital world in shades of gray. I want you to do this right now. Do not wait until the chapter is over. If you are listening on your phone, unlock it. If you are on an iPhone, go to Settings. Scroll down to Accessibility. Tap on Display and Text Size. Scroll down to Color Filters. Turn the toggle on and select Grayscale. If you are on Android, go to Settings. Tap Accessibility. Tap Visibility Enhancements. Tap Color Correction and choose Grayscale. Do it now. Now, look at your screen. It looks dead, doesn't it? It looks broken. You might feel a sudden drop in your chest. You might feel a strange sense of disappointment or even mild irritation. You might feel an immediate urge to turn it back. I can't see the photos properly, you say. It looks boring. Exactly. That feeling of disappointment? That is your dopamine dropping. That is the monkey realizing there is no juice. When you turn on Grayscale, you are turning the candy into cardboard. You have just neutralized the supernormal stimulus. Open Instagram. Look at the feed. Without the color, the photos are just data. They are just an arrangement of pixels. The glamour is gone. The envy is gone. Look at the notification badge. It is just a gray circle. It doesn't scream danger or food anymore. It just sits there, waiting for you to decide what to do with it. This is critical because it shifts the power dynamic. When the phone is in color, the phone acts upon you. It grabs your eyes. When the phone is in grayscale, you act upon the phone. You have to squint. You have to focus. You have to choose. This simple toggle introduces friction, and friction is the enemy of addiction. Here is the rule for the protocol. You are going to keep your phone in grayscale for the next 7 days. If you need to edit a photo or watch a specific video for work, you can toggle the color back on for that specific task, but the default state, the resting state of the phone, must be grayscale. You will notice something fascinating happen over the next 24 hours. You will reach for your phone out of habit. You will unlock it. Your thumb will hover over the Instagram icon. But because the icon is gray and the screen is dull, your brain won't get that micro hit of reward. And you will find yourself simply putting it back down. Not because you used willpower. Not because you forced yourself. But because it wasn't fun. Let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. Your phone uses supernormal stimuli. The bright colors are exaggerated triggers designed to hack your bottom-up attention system, just like the neon egg hacked the bird. Point 2. Willpower cannot fight color. Visual processing is faster than conscious thought. You cannot think your way out of a biological trigger. Point 3. You must neutralize the stimulus. By turning your phone to grayscale, you remove the visual sugar and turn the device back into a utility. This brings us to the law of Chapter 2. Make the toy boring. Your phone is a tool. It is a hammer. It is a wrench. Tools are supposed to be effective, not entertaining. Now, we have neutralized the visual hook. We have stopped the device from screaming at you every time you look at it. But there is still a dangerous window of time where you are vulnerable. Even with a gray screen, if you interact with your device at the wrong time of day, you can still wreck your biological rhythm. In the next chapter, we are going to fix your morning. We are going to talk about cortisol, optic flow, and the absolute rule of movement first. Chapter 3: How your morning scroll wrecks the next 12 hours. The alarm goes off. It is 6:30 in the morning. You are half awake. Your eyes are barely open. You are warm under the covers. And before your feet even touch the floor, before you have taken a conscious breath, before you have said good morning to your partner, your hand shoots out from under the blanket. It grabs the cold metal rectangle on the nightstand. You unlock it. The blue light hits your face, and instantly, you are gone. You check your email. There is a problem at work. You check Instagram. Everyone looks richer and happier than you. You check the news. The world is burning. 20 minutes later, you finally drag yourself out of bed. You feel groggy. You feel heavy. You feel a low-level hum of anxiety buzzing in your chest. You tell yourself, I just needed to wake up. I just needed to check the time. But you didn't just check the time, you just broke your brain for the next 12 hours. You think that morning scroll is a harmless habit, but the literature on chronobiology suggests it is much worse than that. You are not just wasting time, you are interfering with a critical biological launch sequence that dictates your energy, your focus, and your emotional resilience for the entire day. You are tripping at the starting line and wondering why you can't win the race. To understand why this is so destructive, we need to look at the neuroendocrinology of waking up. We need to talk about the cortisol awakening response. Now, cortisol gets a bad reputation. People call it the stress hormone. They think we want zero cortisol. That is false. You need cortisol. Specifically, you need a sharp, healthy spike of cortisol the moment you wake up. This is your body's natural ignition system. When you open your eyes, your brain sends a signal to your adrenal glands to dump cortisol into your bloodstream. This is designed to mobilize glucose. It is designed to clear the fog of sleep. It alerts your system that the hunt has begun. In a healthy human, this spike clears out the sleep hormone, adenosine, and sets your circadian rhythm for the day. It tells your body to be alert now so you can sleep later. But this mechanism was designed for a specific environment. For 200,000 years, when a human woke up, the immediate inputs were physical: the temperature of the air, the light of the sun, the layout of the cave or the hut. Your brain's first job is orientation. It needs to answer 3 questions. Where am I? What time is it? Am I safe? When you shove a screen in your face the second you wake up, you are hijacking this orientation process. Instead of orienting to your physical reality, you are orienting to a digital reality, and digital reality is chaotic. When you read a stressful email or see a political argument on Twitter during this sensitive cortisol window, you are coupling your natural waking up energy with threat detection. You are teaching your brain that being awake equals being under attack. This forces your brain into what neuroscientists call reactive mode. In reactive mode, the brain abandons its long-term plans. It abandons your goals for the day. It shifts all its resources to putting out fires. You haven't even brushed your teeth yet, and you are already playing defense. This is why you feel brain fog at 2 p.m. This is why you crave sugar at 4 p.m. This is why you snap at your spouse over nothing. You exhausted your cognitive battery in the first 20 minutes of the day. You spent your prime neurochemical currency on strangers. So how do we fix this? We need to decouple waking up from screen time. We need to let the cortisol awakening response run its full course naturally, without interference. We need to switch from input to output. This brings us to the protocol for this chapter. It is simple, but for many of you, it will be the hardest thing you do. We call this the movement first rule. The rule is absolute: no pixels until you have generated optic flow. What is optic flow? Optic flow is the visual sensation of the world moving past your eyes as you move through space. When you walk forward, objects in the center of your vision expand and move to your periphery. This specific visual pattern sends a powerful signal directly to your brainstem and your amygdala. It tells your brain, I am moving, I am forward-facing, I am in control. Research from Stanford University has shown that self-generated optic flow, walking, running, or cycling, physically quiets the fear centers of the brain. It lowers anxiety, it suppresses the amygdala. It is the biological opposite of doom scrolling. When you scroll, you are physically paralyzed, but your mind is racing. That is a state of high anxiety. When you move, your body is active and your mind calms down. That is a state of high agency. So, here is the execution plan for your morning. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, you are going to face a choice. The urge to check the phone will be physical. It will feel like an itch. You are going to ignore it. You are going to get up. You are going to put on your shoes. And you are going to get your body moving forward in space. Ideally, you go outside. You get sunlight in your eyes, which anchors your circadian rhythm. You walk around the block. 10 minutes. That is all it takes. If you cannot go outside, if it is raining, or if you have kids, then you move inside. You pace the hallway. You do push-ups. You empty the dishwasher. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you are moving your body and your eyes are scanning the physical room. You are orienting yourself in three-dimensional space. During these 10 minutes, your cortisol will spike naturally. You will feel the fog lift. You will feel your brain coming online. And you will notice something strange. By the time you sit down with your coffee 10 or 15 minutes later, the desperate urge to check the phone is gone. Why? Because you have already won the dopamine war. You got your stimulation from movement, not from a screen. You started your day on offense, not defense. You were proactive, not reactive. Let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. Your brain has a natural launch sequence called the cortisol awakening response. This is your biological ignition. Point 2. Viewing screens immediately upon waking hijacks this ignition. It forces your brain into threat detection mode, draining your energy for the rest of the day. Point 3. You must override this with optic flow. Forward movement quiets the amygdala and orients your brain to reality. This brings us to the law of Chapter 3. Win the first 30 minutes, win the day. If you can execute this one protocol, combined with the grayscale screen from Chapter 2, you will have reclaimed roughly 40% of your cognitive capacity, but eventually, you will have to look at the phone. And when you do, you will face a different kind of trap. You will see photos of your friends, you will see success stories, you will see people living lives that look much better than yours. In the next chapter, we are going to perform surgery on your social feed. We are going to talk about the social trap and why your brain thinks that missing a trend is the same thing as dying. Chapter 4. The Social Trap. Why you fear being left behind. Let's be honest about what happens when you open Instagram or LinkedIn. You scroll, and you see a photo of a friend on a vacation you can't afford. You see an influencer with a body you don't have. You see a colleague announcing a promotion you didn't get. What do you feel in that exact second? It isn't just, oh, that's nice for them. It is a physical sensation. It is a slight drop in your stomach, a tightening in your chest, a microdose of shame. You feel lesser. You feel like you are falling behind. You feel like everyone else has figured out the secret game of life, and you are the only one still reading the instructions. We have a cute name for this. We call it FOMO, the fear of missing out. We treat it like a joke. We treat it like a modern quirk of the digital age. But if you look at the evolutionary psychology, FOMO is not a joke. And it is not modern. It is evolutionary terror. That sinking feeling in your gut is the exact same biological alarm system that went off in your ancestors' brains when they were in danger of being kicked out of the tribe. To understand why a photo on a screen can ruin your day, we have to go back to the Paleolithic era. For 99% of human history, survival was a group project. You could not survive alone. If you were alone, you starved, or you were eaten. Your life depended entirely on your standing within the tribe. If you were valuable to the group, you were safe. If you became a burden, or if your status dropped too low, you risked exclusion. And in the Paleolithic era, exclusion meant death. Because of this, the human brain evolved a highly sensitive mechanism for tracking social status. It is always running in the background, asking two questions. Am I safe within the group? And how do I compare to the others? This is a well-established concept known as social comparison theory. Your brain is wired to constantly scan your environment, compare yourself to those around you, and adjust your behavior to ensure you don't get left behind. When you were in a tribe of 50 people, this system worked perfectly. You compared yourself to the best hunter or the best gatherer, and it motivated you to improve. The gap between you and the best was manageable. But then, we invented the smartphone. And we took this ancient, delicate tribal alarm system and hooked it up to a global database of 3 billion people. Social media is not a neutral reflection of reality. It is a curated highlight reel of the human species' best moments. You are no longer comparing yourself to the best person in your village. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes footage, your messy kitchen, your average Tuesday, to everyone else's greatest hits. You see the vacation, but not the credit card debt. You see the six-pack abs, but not the eating disorder. You see the promotion, but not the 60-hour work weeks and the failed marriage. Your logical brain knows this. You know it's fake, but your primal brain does not. Every time you see a post of someone living a better life, your ancient status tracker detects a threat. It registers as a signal that your relative value in the tribe has dropped. It registers as a risk of exclusion. And so, it hits the panic button. It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. It triggers feelings of inadequacy, envy, and anxiety. This is why you cannot just stop caring. You are fighting your own survival instincts. You are trapped in a game where the rules are rigged against you. The algorithm is designed to show you content that triggers this comparison because insecurity drives engagement. The worse you feel about yourself, the more you scroll to find a solution. You cannot win this game by trying harder. You cannot win by achieving more. There will always be someone richer, fitter, or happier on your feed. The only way to win is to refuse to play. You have to take control of the inputs. This brings us to the protocol for this chapter. We call this the curator's filter. Your social media feed is a diet. If you ate nothing but processed sugar, you would feel sick. Your feed is nothing but processed social sugar. It is making you mentally sick. You need to change the diet. You need to aggressively curate what enters your brain. We are going to do this in 2 steps. Step 1 is the purge. You are going to open your main social app right now. You are going to scroll with a ruthless surgical mindset. Here is the rule. If a post makes you feel envy, shame, inadequacy, or anxiety, you must remove that account from your feed. You have 2 options, mute or unfollow. If it is an influencer or a brand, unfollow. You do not need them. Get them out of your brain. If it is a friend, a colleague, or a family member, and their posts trigger you, do not unfollow them. That creates drama. Instead, use the mute button. They will never know. You remain friends. But their highlight reel no longer pollutes your daily consciousness. Be ruthless. Mute the guy from high school who just sold his company. Mute the fitness model. Mute the hustle porn account that tells you you aren't working hard enough. Your mental health is more important than their vanity metrics. Step 2 is the replacement. You cannot just remove the bad. The brain hates a vacuum. You need to replace the social comparison with something healthier. You need to shift your brain from comparison mode to curiosity mode. When you compare, you feel small. When you are curious, you feel expansive. So for every 5 accounts you mute, you are going to follow 1 new account. But there is a strict criteria. It must be a skill account. A skill account is an account dedicated to teaching you something specific. It is not about the person. It is about the knowledge. Follow a chef who teaches knife skills. Follow a coder who teaches Python. Follow a carpenter who shows how to build furniture. Follow a historian who posts interesting facts. When you see these posts, your brain doesn't ask, "Am I as good as them?" It asks, "What can I learn from them?" That shift from me versus them to what is that is the antidote to FOMO. Curiosity is the opposite of anxiety. Let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. FOMO is not a modern quirk. It is an evolutionary survival mechanism driven by exclusion sensitivity. Your brain equates falling behind with death. Point 2. Social media triggers a constant status threat. Comparing your internal reality to someone else's curated external reality triggers a biological stress response. Point 3. You must take control of the input. Use the curator's filter to mute triggers and replace them with skill accounts. Shift from comparison to curiosity. This brings us to the law of Chapter 4. Curate your inputs, change your emotions. You are the gatekeeper of your own mind. Stop letting trash in. Now, we have secured your morning. We have dulled the colors. We have silenced the social noise. You have stripped away the external triggers. And now, you are going to face something much harder. You are going to face the internal triggers. You are going to have free time. You are going to have moments of quiet. And for the first time in a long time, you are going to feel bored, and it is going to hurt. In the next chapter, we are going to teach you how to sit in that fire without getting burned. We are going to learn the power of doing nothing. Chapter 5. The power of doing nothing. We need to talk about the silence. You have now stopped the morning scroll. You have turned your screen to grayscale. You have muted the accounts that make you feel small. You have successfully removed the noise, but now you are left with something that might feel even worse. You are left with the quiet. You are standing in the elevator and you don't look at your phone. You are waiting in line at the coffee shop and you don't check your email. You are sitting on the couch on a Sunday afternoon and the room is still. And suddenly you feel it. A rising heat in your chest. A twitch in your fingers. A sense of frantic, restless energy. You feel bored, and to your modern brain, boredom feels like dying. We have conditioned ourselves to believe that boredom is a bug, a failure of productivity, or a waste of time. We treat it like a symptom that needs to be medicated immediately. So, the second we feel a gap in the stimulation, we patch it with a podcast, a text, or a scroll. But I am here to tell you that boredom is not a bug. Boredom is a feature. And by constantly medicating it, you are destroying the very mechanism that makes you intelligent. To understand why, we need to look at a specific network in your brain called the default mode network, or the DMN. For a long time, neuroscientists thought that when you stopped focusing on a task, your brain went to sleep. They thought it went idle. But in 2001, a neurologist named Marcus Rachel discovered the exact opposite. When you stop focusing on the outside world, when you stare out a window and let your mind wander, your brain does not shut down. It lights up. It switches into the default mode network. This is the part of the brain responsible for consolidating memory, future planning, self-reflection, and creativity. Think of your brain like a computer with two operating systems. System 1 is the task-positive network. This is used for doing. It is active when you are writing an email, solving a math problem, or scrolling through a feed. You are focused on the external world. System 2 is the default mode network. This is used for being. It is active only when you stop doing. Here is the catch. Research shows that these two systems are anti-correlated. Like a seesaw, they cannot both be up at the same time. If the task-positive network is on, the default mode network is off. If you are scrolling, you are not thinking. And because we fill every single spare second of our day with digital input, we have effectively starved the default mode network. We have blocked our own ability to self-reflect. We have forgotten who we are because we never give ourselves the time to sit with ourselves. We have lost the ability to time travel. You see, the DMN is the only part of your brain that can project into the future or analyze the past. It is where you synthesize your life's narrative. When you kill boredom, you kill your ability to plan your life. You become a passenger in your own existence, reacting to inputs but never setting a course. But there is a second reason you hate boredom. And it is physical. It hurts. When you are an addict, and yes, we are using that word, your brain adapts to high levels of dopamine. When you take the drug away, your dopamine drops below baseline. This drop is physically painful. It registers in the anterior cingulate cortex, the same part of the brain that processes physical pain, like burning your hand on a stove. This manifests as agitation, irritability, and a feeling of crawling out of your skin. When you feel that urge to check your phone in the elevator, that is not curiosity. That is a withdrawal symptom. That is your brain screaming, I am in pain, give me the hit. And usually, you obey. You check the phone to make the pain go away. But today, we are going to stop obeying. We are going to learn how to endure the burn. This brings us to the protocol for this chapter. It is a technique borrowed from clinical addiction therapy, specifically from mindfulness-based relapse prevention. We call this the 2-minute urge surf. The mistake most people make is that they try to fight the urge. They grit their teeth and say, I will not look. But fighting focuses your attention on the struggle. It makes the urge stronger. Think of the urge like a wave in the ocean. If you try to stand rigid against a massive wave, it will knock you over. You will drown. But if you surf the wave, if you ride on top of it, you can survive it. Here is the drill. The next time you feel that frantic need to unlock your phone, do not fight it. And do not give in to it. Step 1 is the pause. Stop what you are doing. Put your hands on your lap. Do not touch the device. Step 2 is the timer. Glance at a clock or count in your head. You need 2 minutes. Step 3 is the observation. Do nothing. Just sit. Focus entirely on the physical sensation of the urge. Where do you feel it? Is it a tightness in your throat? Is it a buzzing in your hands? Is your leg bouncing? Is your chest tight? Describe it to yourself objectively. Say, I am feeling a strong urge to check Instagram. I notice my heart rate is up. I notice I feel restless. Watch the urge rise. It will peak, like a wave. It will get intense. You will think, I have to check it right now. And then, if you just wait, if you just breathe through that peak, you will watch it break. You will feel the wave crash and recede. The physical agitation will dissolve, and you will realize something profound. The urge is not a command. It is just a sensation. And like all sensations, it is temporary. You do not have to act on it. You just have to outwait it. Every time you surf the urge without clicking, you are strengthening a cognitive muscle called distress tolerance. You are training your brain that it is safe to be bored. You are proving to your nervous system that you will not die just because you didn't see the notification. And in that space of boredom, in that silence, your default mode network will flicker back to life. You will start to remember things you forgot to do. You will start to have ideas for your business. You will start to process emotions you have been suppressing for years. It will be uncomfortable at first. It might even be emotional. You might feel sadness coming up. Good. That means the anesthesia is wearing off. That means you are waking up. Let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. Boredom is required for deep thinking. You need to deactivate the task-positive network to activate the default mode network, which handles creativity and future planning. Point 2. The urge to scroll is a physical withdrawal symptom processed by the anterior cingulate cortex. It feels like pain because, neurologically, it is pain. Point 3. Do not fight the urge. Surf it. Use the 2-minute urge. Surf to observe the sensation rising and falling without acting on it. This brings us to the law of Chapter 5. Boredom is brain recovery. You are not wasting time. You are healing your mind. Now you have learned to tolerate the silence. You have learned to sit in the void without panicking. But you cannot sit in the void forever. Eventually, you need to do something. You need stimulation. Humans are designed to act. And if you don't have a plan for good stimulation, you will inevitably go back to the bad stimulation. You cannot just remove the junk food. You have to eat something nutritious. In the next chapter, we are going to talk about the difference between fast dopamine and slow dopamine. We are going to build your menu. Chapter 6. Fast dopamine versus slow dopamine. By now, you have stripped your phone of its color. You have secured your morning routine. You have learned to sit in the silence without panicking. You have successfully cleared the weeds from the garden. But here is the danger of this phase. If you clear the weeds but do not plant flowers, the weeds will grow back, and they will grow back thicker and faster than before. This is the failure point for almost everyone who tries a digital detox. They focus entirely on subtraction. They focus on what they are not doing. I am not scrolling. I am not checking email. I am not watching TikTok. But the brain abhors a vacuum. If you create a void in your day and do not fill it with high-quality stimulation, your brain will eventually panic. It will demand input. And because you haven't planned for that moment, you will reach for the easiest, fastest source of relief available. You will relapse. To prevent this, we need to stop talking about quitting dopamine. You cannot quit dopamine. It is the fuel of your nervous system. Without it, you cannot move a muscle. You cannot formulate a thought. The problem is not the fuel. The problem is the source of the fuel. We need to understand the physics of dopaminergic density. Not all dopamine is created equal. Your brain processes rewards in two very different ways, and understanding the difference is the key to sustainable high performance. We call these two categories, fast dopamine and slow dopamine. Let's start with fast dopamine. This is the dopamine you get from social media, pornography, junk food, and video games. The characteristic of fast dopamine is that it is cheap. It requires zero effort. You swipe a finger, you get a hit. Physiologically, this creates a massive, vertical spike in your neurotransmitters. It feels good in the moment. It feels like a rush. But biology dictates that what goes up must come down. The brain seeks homeostasis. It seeks balance. When you flood the brain with artificial cheap dopamine, the brain compensates by slamming on the brakes. It downregulates your receptors. And here is the critical part. It doesn't just bring you back to baseline. It drops you below baseline. This is the crash. This is why, after an hour of scrolling TikTok, you don't feel happy. You feel numb. You feel lethargic. You feel a strange, low-level depression. You are in a dopamine deficit, and because you feel terrible, you crave the very thing that caused the pain. You reach for the phone again just to feel normal. This is the cycle of addiction. It is a diet of pure sugar. It gives you a burst of energy followed by a diabetic crash. Now, let's look at the alternative. Let's look at slow dopamine. This is the dopamine you get from a cold plunge, a heavy workout, solving a complex coding problem, or reading a dense book. The characteristic of slow dopamine is that the effort precedes the reward. You have to pay up front. When you start a run, it hurts. When you open a difficult book, it is boring. But as you push through the friction, your brain releases dopamine in a steady, rising curve. There is no vertical spike. And because there is no spike, there is no crash. When you finish a workout, you don't feel numb. You feel a sustained afterglow that lasts for hours. Your baseline mood is elevated. This is not sugar, this is protein. This is dense nutrition for your nervous system. The goal of the Dopamine Reset Protocol is not to starve yourself. It is to switch your fuel source. We are going to move you from a sugar-based metabolism to a protein-based metabolism. But you cannot do this on the fly. When you are bored and tired and your willpower is low, you will not naturally choose to read a philosophy book. You will choose the phone, unless you have a menu. This brings us to the protocol for this chapter. We call this the dopamine replacement menu. I want you to get a piece of paper. Right now, you are going to design a physical menu for your brain. You are going to list the options you are allowed to order when you feel the hunger for stimulation. We are going to divide this menu into two sections: appetizers and entrees. Let's start with appetizers. These are activities that take 5 minutes or less. They are designed for quick breaks when you are transitioning between tasks or waiting for a meeting to start. Usually, this is when you would check Twitter. Instead, you will choose from your appetizer list. Here are some examples. Number 1. The physiological sigh. 2 inhales through the nose, 1 long exhale through the mouth. It resets your nervous system instantly. Number 2. 20 push-ups. Get the blood moving. Number 3. Step outside and look at the sky. Number 4. Play with your dog. These activities provide a small, healthy hit of dopamine. They break the boredom loop without pulling you into the digital vortex. Now, let's look at entrees. These are activities that take 30 minutes or more. These are for when you have genuine free time in the evening or on weekends. Usually, this is when you would binge Netflix. Instead, you will choose an entree. Examples include: Number 1. Deep reading, fiction or non-fiction. Number 2. A long walk without headphones. Number 3. Cooking a meal from scratch. Number 4. Lifting heavy weights. Here is the rule of the menu. You must write this list down. You must tape it to your fridge or put it on your desk. When the urge hits, when you feel that familiar itch of boredom, you are not allowed to say, "I don't know what to do." You look at the menu, and you order. I am feeling bored. I will take the push-ups. I am feeling lonely. I will take the walk. By deciding in advance, you remove the cognitive load. You make the good choice the easy choice. Let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. You cannot just remove bad habits. The brain requires stimulation. If you create a void, you will relapse. Point 2. Fast dopamine, scrolling, creates a crash below baseline. Slow dopamine, effort, creates a sustained high. You must switch fuel sources. Point 3. Use the dopamine replacement menu. Pre-decide your appetizers and entrees so you don't have to rely on willpower when you are bored. This brings us to the law of Chapter 6. Don't remove dopamine. Replace it. You are building a high-performance engine. Stop putting cheap gas in the tank. Now, we have the fuel, we have the mindset, we have the tools, but there is one final enemy we have to defeat: gravity. No matter how disciplined you are, if you are constantly fighting your environment, you will eventually lose. If the candy bar is sitting on your desk, eventually, you will eat it. In the next chapter, we are going to design a fail-safe environment. We are going to talk about proxemics and why your phone should never, ever sleep in your bedroom. Chapter 7. Your environment always wins. We have spent the last 6 chapters talking about your internal world. We talked about your dopamine receptors, your cortisol levels, and your emotional triggers. We have focused on upgrading your software. But even the best software in the world will crash if you run it on broken hardware. And right now, your hardware setup is designed to make you fail. There is a fundamental truth about human behavior that most high performers refuse to accept. They believe that success is a matter of willpower. They believe that if they just try hard enough, if they are disciplined enough, they can resist the temptation. They treat willpower like a muscle that can lift any weight if you just train it hard enough. But the psychological literature suggests that willpower is not a muscle. Willpower is a battery. Every time you resist an urge, you drain the battery. Every time you force yourself to focus, you drain the battery. By 4 p.m., the battery is dead. But your environment is not a battery. Your environment is gravity. Gravity never gets tired. Gravity never needs a nap. Gravity pulls on you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you try to fight gravity with willpower, you might win for an hour. You might win for a day. But eventually the battery dies. And gravity wins. If you keep chocolate on your desk, eventually you will eat it. If you keep your phone in your pocket, eventually you will scroll. So, we are going to stop fighting gravity. We are going to design a new environment where gravity works for you, instead of against you. To do this, we need to understand a psychological principle called the proximity effect. And we need to look at a terrifying study conducted at the University of Texas at Austin. We call this the brain drain study. Researchers took 800 people and gave them a series of complex cognitive tests. These were tests designed to measure working memory, focus, and raw intelligence. But here is the twist. They split the people into 3 groups. Group A was told to put their phones on the desk, face down. They were told to turn them on silent. Group B was told to keep their phones in their pockets or their bags. Group C was told to leave their phones in a completely different room. Now keep in mind, nobody was allowed to use their phone. In Group A, the phones were off and face down. They were just visible. The results were shocking. The people with the phones on the desk performed significantly worse than the people with the phones in the other room. They had lower focus. They had lower working memory. They made more mistakes. Why? Because of cognitive load. Your brain has a limited amount of processing power. We call this RAM. When your phone is sitting in your peripheral vision, even if it is turned off, a part of your brain is actively tracking it. A part of your brain is running a background process that says, "Do not check the phone. Do not check the phone." That background process eats up your RAM. The researchers found that the mere presence of the device reduced cognitive capacity by roughly 10 to 15%. Think about that. By simply having your phone on your desk while you work, you are voluntarily lowering your IQ by 10 points. You are making yourself stupider just by looking at it. This is why willpower doesn't work. Because simply ignoring the phone costs energy. You are leaking mental energy every single second the device is near you. So the solution is not to try harder to ignore it. The solution is to remove the object from your visual field entirely. This brings us to the protocol for this chapter. This is the single most effective way to protect your deep work and your sleep. We call this the Phone Foyer Method. Most people charge their phones on their nightstand. This is a disaster. It guarantees that the phone is the last thing you see at night and the first thing you see in the morning. We are going to change the geography of your home. Step 1. You are going to buy a separate phone charger, a cheap one. You are going to plug it into the outlet in your entryway, your foyer, or your mudroom. Step 2. This is now the permanent home for your phone. When you walk into your house, you take your keys out of your pocket and hang them up. You take your shoes off and put them by the door. From now on, you do the exact same thing with your phone. You walk in, you plug it in, you leave it there. You walk into your living room, your kitchen, and your bedroom empty-handed. Your home is now a landline zone. If you need to use the phone, you walk to the foyer, you stand there, you check your message, you reply, and then you plug it back in and walk away. You treat it like a wall-mounted telephone from the 1990s. This introduces physical friction. If you are sitting on the couch and you feel bored, you cannot just mindlessly swipe. You have to physically get up, walk down the hall, and check the device. That 10 seconds of walking is usually enough time for your prefrontal cortex to kick in and say, I don't actually need to check it. But the most important part of this protocol is the bedroom perimeter. I want you to make a sacred vow right now. The phone never enters the bedroom. Never. Buy an alarm clock, a cheap analog alarm clock. The bedroom is for sleeping and for intimacy. It is not for Steve Jobs. When you remove the phone from the bedroom, you eliminate the possibility of the late-night doom scroll. You eliminate the blue light that destroys your melatonin. And you eliminate the morning cortisol spike we talked about in Chapter 3. Some of you are panicking right now. But what if there is an emergency? Turn the ringer on loud. If it rings in the foyer, you will hear it. But you won't hear the phantom vibrations of a text message. By implementing the Phone Foyer Method, you are leveraging the proximity effect in your favor. When the phone is out of sight, the brain drain stops. Your cognitive RAM returns to 100%. Let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. Willpower is a battery that drains, but environment is gravity that never stops. You cannot fight your environment forever. Point 2. The brain drain effect proves that merely seeing a phone reduces your functional IQ by 10 to 15% due to cognitive load. Point 3. Use the Phone Foyer Method. Charge your phone by the front door. Keep your bedroom and workspace strictly analog to preserve your mental energy. This brings us to the law of Chapter 7. Out of sight, out of your head. If you cannot see it, you do not have to ignore it. We have now optimized your biology. We have optimized your environment. We have given you the tools to break the addiction. But there is one final step. All of these tools, the grayscale, the scroll log, the foyer, these are just behaviors. And behaviors can slip. To make this change permanent, to ensure you never go back to being a slave to the algorithm, we need to change something deeper than your habits. We need to rewrite your identity. In the final chapter, we are going to talk about neuroplasticity and how to become the type of person who doesn't need to scroll. Chapter 8. Becoming someone who doesn't need to scroll. We have reached the final chapter, and I want to tell you a story about 2 men who are trying to quit smoking. They are standing at a bar. A friend offers them a cigarette. The first man says, "No thanks, I am trying to quit." The second man says, "No thanks, I am not a smoker." Do you hear the difference? The first man still believes he is a smoker. He is a smoker who is currently resisting a cigarette. He is using willpower to fight his own identity. Eventually, he will get tired. Eventually, he will smoke. The second man has shifted his identity. He does not need willpower because non-smokers do not smoke. The temptation is irrelevant to him. For the last 7 chapters, we have been acting like the first man. We have used tools and tactics to resist the phone. We used Grayscale to make it boring. We used the scroll log to catch the triggers. We used the Foyer method to hide the temptation. These are powerful strategies, but they are defensive strategies. If you want to win this war permanently, you cannot spend the rest of your life hiding your phone in the hallway and gritting your teeth. You need to stop being a scroller who is on a detox. You need to become a sovereign individual who uses technology. You need to change your brain so that the urge simply doesn't exist. Is that possible? Can you actually change the physical structure of your brain as an adult? For a long time, scientists said no. They believed the brain was fixed after childhood. They were wrong. This brings us to the final scientific mechanism of this protocol: experience-dependent neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a static organ. It is a dynamic, living architecture. It is constantly rewiring itself based on what you do. Think of your brain like a dense forest. Every time you have a thought or perform an action, a neural signal travels from point A to point B. The first time you do it, it is like hacking a path through the brush with a machete. It is hard. It is slow. But if you take that same path every day, the brush clears. The dirt gets packed down. Eventually, it becomes a paved road. Then, a highway. The signal travels effortlessly. Right now, your scrolling pathway is a superhighway. You have traveled down that road 10,000 times. Your brain has physically thickened the connections between feeling bored and unlocking phone. It is the path of least resistance. That is why it feels automatic. But here is the good news. Neuroplasticity works both ways. If you stop using a pathway, the forest grows back. The road degrades. This is a biological process called synaptic pruning. And simultaneously, if you start walking a new path, you build a new highway. Every time you choose to sit in silence, you are physically strengthening your anterior cingulate. Every time you choose to read a book, you are physically thickening your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive control and willpower. You are not just building a habit, you are engaging in hardware construction. But to build this new highway, you need consistent, heavy traffic. You need to force the brain to operate in the real world without digital assistance. This brings us to our final tool. We call this the daily analog anchor. Here is the problem with modern life. Almost everything we do is hybrid. We watch TV while checking Twitter. We cook dinner while watching YouTube. We run while listening to a podcast. There is no boundary. The digital world bleeds into everything. To rewire your identity, you need to reclaim one specific territory of your life. You need to plant a flag in the ground and say, this activity is sacred. This activity is analog. The instruction: you are going to pick one daily activity. It should be something that takes at least 20 to 30 minutes. It could be cooking dinner, writing in a journal, walking the dog, or playing the guitar. For this one activity, there is a zero-tolerance policy for digital interference. No phone, no podcast, no music, no smartwatch, just you and the task. If you choose cooking, you are focusing entirely on the smell of the onions, the heat of the pan, and the weight of the knife. If you choose walking, you are listening to the wind and looking at the trees. Why are we doing this? Because this is your anchor to reality. When you engage deeply with the physical world without a screen, you are sending a powerful signal to your brain. You are teaching your brain that you are capable of generating your own dopamine. You are proving to yourself that you do not need a device to feel complete. This is how you shift your identity. You don't shift identity by standing in front of a mirror and saying affirmations. You shift identity by casting votes with your actions. Every minute you spend in the analog anchor is a vote for the new you. Every minute you spend fully present, you are pruning the addiction pathways and paving the sovereignty pathways. It will be hard at first. You will be chopping vegetables, and you will feel the urge to put on a YouTube video. It's too quiet, you will think. I'm bored. Let it be quiet. Let yourself be bored. That quiet is the sound of your brain rewiring. Let's recap the 3 key points from this chapter. Point 1. Resistive willpower eventually fails. To create permanent change, you must shift your identity from trying to quit to not a scroller. Point 2. Experience-dependent neuroplasticity proves that your brain physically changes based on your actions. Repeated analog behavior thickens the prefrontal cortex. Point 3. Use the daily analog anchor. Pick one task to perform in total silence every day to prove to your brain that you don't need digital input to survive. This brings us to the law of Chapter 8. Every analog minute rewires you. You are not just cooking dinner, you are building a better brain. We have reached the end of the line. We started this journey by acknowledging a harsh truth, that your brain was broken. We acknowledged that you were fighting a losing war against a supercomputer designed to hack your biology. But over the last 8 chapters, we have dismantled that machine piece by piece. We exposed the slot machine in your pocket and the reward prediction error that keeps you pulling the lever. We stripped the paint off the casino walls, turning the candy into cardboard with the Grayscale Protocol. We reclaimed your biochemistry by securing the first 30 minutes of the day with the movement first rule. We silenced the evolutionary terror of the social trap by curating your inputs. We learned to sit in the fire of boredom, using the urge surf to heal your default mode network. We swapped the cheap sugar of fast dopamine for the dense protein of slow dopamine. We changed the laws of gravity in your home with the Phone Foyer Method. And finally, we began the work of rewiring your identity with the analog anchor. You now possess a complete tactical toolkit. You have the map, you have the compass. But before you go, I need to remind you of the promise I made in the title of this audiobook. I promised you the one thing that actually works. You might be thinking, which one is it? Is it the grayscale? Is it the foyer? It is none of them. Those are just tactics. Tactics are useful, but tactics can be forgotten. The one thing, the underlying principle that makes all of this work, is conscious friction. For the last 10 years, Silicon Valley has been obsessed with one goal: removing friction. They wanted to make it effortless to scroll, effortless to click, effortless to buy. They removed the space between your impulse and your action. To reclaim your mind, you must do the opposite. You must aggressively and intentionally insert friction back into your life. Every tool we discussed, from the scroll log to the charger by the door, serves this single purpose. They create a pause, and in that pause lies your freedom. In that pause, you are no longer a reflex. You are a choice. But here is the final warning. Listening to this audiobook changes nothing. Information without execution is just entertainment. It is just another form of dopamine. You can nod your head, you can agree with the science, you can feel inspired by the strategy. But if you turn this audio off and immediately let the algorithm autoplay the next video, or if you mindlessly open Twitter, then we have failed. You will have wasted your time. So, I am going to give you your final marching orders. In a few seconds, I am going to stop talking. Do not click like. Do not check the comments to see what other people thought. Do not look at the recommended videos. Step 1. Close this app immediately. Step 2. Get your piece of paper and your pen. Start your 24-hour scroll log. Catch the very next trigger. Step 3. Walk to your entryway. Plug the phone into the wall. And walk away. It will be quiet. It will be uncomfortable. Good. That is the sound of your life waiting for you. Stop scrolling. Start living. Welcome back to the real world.